welcome to Costco. I love you. What's going on, everyone? Today I've got the newest release from Tamiya. This is the CC02 with the new 2021 Bronco body on top. Now, you may have seen the details about this release weeks or months ago at this point, but now the official release is happening. What we have in front of us here is the new style Bronco body on top of the CC02 platform, which is one of Tamiya's newer platforms. It's got solid axles and it's a ladder frame, so kind of fits the check boxes that you would expect on a scale type rig. However, it is very Tamiya in so many ways. I built this kit the other night, and it's one of those things as you go through, it's so Tamiya in every way. You do so much before it really starts coming together, and it's just like they keep designing, just keep designing more. Like, I don't know what it is yet, just keep designing and then make it all fit. There's just so many things going on to accomplish what you actually have here. Now, the body is what I would consider the highlight of this truck, and in this case, the custom paint job on it is hands down my favorite part. I commissioned this paint job from another fan of one of my favorite documentaries, but it came out fantastic. The Heatwave style paint scheme, but in the Brondo theme, I think worked out really good. And there's a bunch of other fantastic little Easter eggs on here. The Not Sure Racing, a must have. We have a brought to you by Carl's Jr. here on the rear quarter. Costco loves you. Dwayne Elizondo, Mountain Dew, Herbert Camacho for president. And powered, fueled, and enhanced by electrolytes. All of that part of this body is all 100% paint. The only things that are stickers on here are the actual like detail stickers around these light bezels on the cowl, and then like the badge details on the side. Everything else 100% paint. My local painter, Joe, or Moose Jaw Joe, is who did the paint job, and again, just did a fantastic job. The body itself is so well detailed. All of the lines are super crisp, and then you also have these additional details like the roof rack, the side mirrors, the little shark fins on top of the fenders, and then you also have hard molded plastic grille, light buckets, some of the lower bumper details. It all just finishes this body off so well. It's so impressive. Now, this also comes with a roof rack or basket that kind of goes on the top of this. I thought that it looks better with just the rails. I think it started looking a little busy up top if you added those. You'll also notice that I don't have body posts coming through. I used some of the parts that come with the kit to actually make my own, pinless body mounting system. So it's using Velcro now. Underneath the CC02 is a pretty straightforward, but again, a lot of things going on to accomplish exactly what you see. Now, if you plan to use this truck for off-road trail-like, or if you think that you're going to try and do rock crawling with it, you have a couple of options. Now, the transmission does have an optional low gear set that you can build the transmission with. It's included. You just have to decide if you want the standard gear ratio or the lower gear ratio for a little bit more off-road ability. Also, if you plan to do that, like I did here, you can also install the diff lockers that come with this kit as well. So eliminates the open differentials front and rear, just to try and give this thing some chance of performing off-road. The clearance is pretty marginal. It uses very small tires. However, the tires that you see on here are not the ones that are included. The ones that are included are the standard tires that we've seen since like the high lift days. They are a pretty hard compound and they're pretty small. I went with these Proline Class 0 crawlers, which are just barely noticeably larger, just ever so slightly. These are 3.85 inches tall. So they're just, I think, the perfect replacement for this truck. If you buy this truck, no matter your purpose for it, these tires are so perfect. They clear everything great. They look fantastic. The compound is solid. They're 1.9 and it just is a perfect replacement. So these tires, not going to be big performers in almost any situation. So I think that these are definitely one I can highly suggest going with. Since I was changing tires, I also mounted them up to some Vanquish Method 101 wheels with a red IFR ring to just kind of give it a little bit of a tie-in to some of the red that you see on the body. Beyond that, it comes with the Silvercan Tamiya motor, like we've seen a million times, but they have switched to Hobbywing ESCs. This is probably like a Hobbywing 1040, 1060, somewhere in there. They're definitely one of the more popular OEMs for that reason. And then I put in an EcoPower WP110T, so a very basic 110 or 20 ounce inch servo. Just gets the job done. Nothing special. It's kind of like my go-to servo for a lot of my Tamiya kits. Pretty well suited for what these vehicle platforms are kind of expected to do. The shocks that come on this truck, a little bit upgraded from what you have maybe built from Tamiya in the past. They're actually an oil-filled damper. So you have that is a little bit of an upgrade from some of like the friction-based ones that I've built 100 times probably in the past. Got a little receiver box that just gets double-sided taped into position. You can kind of place it in different spots depending on what your requirements are. Just kind of set it over here towards the side. Now the suspension on this is 4-link, both front and rear. And we have a chassis mounted servo, so you get some bump steer. If you move the suspension up and down, you can clearly see it steer the tires. So that's not ideal, but if you're buying this, I think that hopefully your expectations of the out-of-the-box performance is somewhat reasonable because it is a very basic kit. The suspension actual, travel is better than I imagined. I don't have a battery in this right now, but it still gets, a little bit of suspension flex in there. So that's, again, not too bad. With a battery in there for a little bit more chassis weight, it'd keep it even a little bit more planted. And with a wheelbase as short as this truck at just 10 inches, again, it's a great platform to mount this really good looking body on top of. You will also notice that the bumpers are part of the body. The bumper that's here on the chassis actually sits behind this body. So what's the over under on how many times Matt calls this a trail truck in his video? I'm gonna guess like 7. Grabbing one of my other favorite little Tamiya builds, I think that these are a pretty good comparison in a lot of ways. Both have excellent styling and both will do suitable on the terrain that they are both intended for. But neither of them is going to dominate on any of those terrains. If you're a builder who likes to pick up a kit and just kind of work through the instructions, possibly have a few options, along the way, such as the transmission gearing, the lockers, even the servo positioning in the front, then the Tamiya kits are a pretty good idea. They have a well-constructed and a well-proportioned body that you're going to be able to put on the top and theme in whatever way you see fit. Now, the downsides of the Tamiya kits are that they still do use a JIS or a Phillips-like screw for everything. I did swap out to all hex head hardware while I was building this. I had basically all the sizes and just kind of replaced it as I went, other than the specialty hardware like kingpin screws or, a few little specialty pieces here and there that you just can't really get away from. Other than that, I replaced the hardware and they still come with plastic bushings. And I replaced those along the way as well. I had fast eddy bearing kit that I used for this truck, all but a couple of bearings because I didn't have the bearing kit for a CC02, but the Tamiya kits share so many bearings and they're so standard that I had just about everything that I needed, except a couple, which are the easiest ones to get to on the kit. So I lucked out in that place. This little truck will have its place, probably next to a lot of the other Tamiyas that I really enjoy looking at mostly. But some thrashing in the dirt, maybe a run up onto the rocks, probably be in order. But for now, it's time for a Starbucks run. This episode brought to you by Carl's Jr. And remember, Brondo's got what plants crave. It's got electrolytes.